we will move on to the monthly budget report. Scott Jones, are you ready? Sorry. Did we let you eat? Will you reintroduce yourself?
I will. So good afternoon, board members, members of the public, all our wonderful constituents out there, our BAs, LEAs, Deputy Superintendent of Operations Scott Jones. This is the perpetual monthly budget report. Kelsey's driving. Deborah, unfortunately, is sick, so she's not in the office today. Kelsey's stepping in for her to navigate the monthly budget report. So, and for the benefit of our new board members, I had mentioned this in our board member orientation earlier this week, that this is required by law that I do the following. I attest that the Board of Education is financially stable and capable of meeting all of our obligations and commitments this fiscal year, unless there's some particular event, economic downturn or thing like that would drive it, and we'd obviously advise you on that. The monthly budget report itself is quite lengthy because we do break it down by section. And yeah, go ahead, Kelsey, scroll through it a little bit, so kind of slow so everybody can see it. And especially, again, our new board members coming in to orient them to it. We do it by we're all required to budget and track our expenditures by program to that level of detail. So that is why it's pretty extensive. And so at this point, or after I've attested to our situation, I do need to, if it occurs, we do have a particular concern right now related to fiscal year 22, and particularly the TSSA funding. We received some questions from the field regarding why there was a mid-year update on the TSSA funds in 22. We went back and we looked, and because your rule in the code basically says no mid-year update should occur on the TSSA funds. So unfortunately, we did do a mid-year update, and so there's no loss of funding, so to speak. But what did happen was there were winners and losers, right? Whenever we make adjustments on the money, there were winners and losers. So normally, if we came across an issue like that in the current fiscal year, we could easily cover that, right? We would just update or, basically, just update their allotment memos and balance that equation out. Since the TSSA program has been on, we haven't done any mid-year update, but for some reason, which we're exploring, we did a mid-year update in 22. So what I'm seeking is, and board leadership has been notified of this particular situation. I mean, obviously, we need to do some more research on this, but what I will be doing is asking for an agenda item in the Finance Committee in January to, further develop this and look for internal funds to hold those LEAs that were reduced with their TSSA money by way of the error that we made in doing a mid-year update to TSSA last year. I've also asked Vice Chair Belknap and Chief Audit Executive Davis to review, not necessarily audit, but review that particular account. Make sure that what I'm telling you is accurate in the sense that it's only that 1 year. We followed the rule, we followed the code all the other years. And this year, there's no issue this year. But unfortunately, again, we do have this issue from the FY22 TSSA distribution. Again, not, didn't go over budget or anything like that. We just redistributed the money, and unfortunately, there was LEAs that were decreased mid-year last year, and that should not have happened. I'm just advising you on this. Again, it won't require us to go to the legislature or ask anything because we do have available funds internally. So here's why I can say and attest that we we're capable of meeting all our obligations and commitments, and we'll correct this. And we'll do it transparently by way of the Finance Committee, who then we'll make a recommendation to the board on how to solve that particular issue. We do need time to get more details on it. I do need the assistance from Chief Audit Executive Davis to look at it, to make sure that, we're dotting the i's and crossing the t's and doing what right is, getting to what right is for those LEAs. With that, Chair, I'll pause and see if there's any questions or concerns with this monthly budget report and/or the situation I just described to the board.
I don't see any. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, as you know, we also provide in the backups the latest and greatest status or update on the ARP ESSER funds. This is not a month where we plan on going into that in detail, so it's available for your review. If you did have a chance to review it, again, we're not going to go slide by slide, but Kelsey's pulled it up so you can see what I'm referencing here. I will pause here and ask Chair for any questions from yourself and/or board members related specifically to the update that is in the backups, public facing for you and/or the public.
I don't see any. Go
Okay,
ahead.
with that then, ma'am.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
We do
Yes,
have
ma'am.
one. Board Member Klein.
Sorry, I was hoping to find the slide. I didn't write what slide it numbered.
Natalie,
Sure.
will you pull your mic down?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
So I just had a couple questions on some of the bar graphs that it shows. That it was split between, how many are there, 35? Where is it? Are there bar graphs in this one?
On that
There's
one.
some
there
up
is.
here, Natalie. Does this help at
Oh.
all?
Well, no, not on the ESSER, but where it splits it out in the different areas that the money was spent, that the different funds were spent on.
Sarah, are you coming to the table? Thank you.
Like, yes, right there. So addressing physical health and safety, meeting student, academic, social, emotional needs, mental health support, student staff, continuity of services. So I guess my question is, how much was spent on improving academic proficiency? It's kind of mushed in there with everything else and it's not separated out. I would really like to see that separated out. So that's a clear, distinct indicator where we are on academics and the funding that went towards improving it.
Go ahead.
Proficiency
Introduce
scores.
yourself too, Sarah.
Thank you. So Chief of Staff, Sarah Young, I appreciate the question. So to give a little context behind these graphs represent the specific reporting categories that were required by the U.S. Department of Education as part of our monitoring related to the funds. So moving forward, we always seek input such as this from the State Board of Education so that in our future reporting, we can say, hey, we also want you to report on this additional factor to be able to then bring that information back. So what you see represented was strictly what we were required to do, nothing more, but we can certainly add to that in the future.
Is that something that can be done retroactively with the COVID funds?
So it's a good question. So the short answer is sort of. And the reason I say that is because in the grants management system for ARP ESSER, which was the largest award that was made in the kind of third round of ESSER funding, we do actually have coding that allows us to pull that information real time. However, we do not have that coded into ESSER 2 and ESSER 1, mainly because those weren't explicit requirements in terms of reporting outcomes that we had. So in order to get that information, we can do it. We would need to go to the LEAs and ask them to provide that additional information as part of a board directive.
Well, I would like to have that information collected and shown to us, separating out academics and social emotional learning and other needs as three separate areas. If we can have that
So are
done, that
you
would be great.
making a motion for that?
If-
I think this is an information item.
It is,
I
but
think-
I don't
I
know.
think what you'll need to do is send a request into leadership with two
Okay.
other people and ask for that. As a reminder, they're going to have to go back to LEAs to get 1 and 2, which is going to be a reporting burden on them.
Yep.
You can still do that.
It's okay. I think
Okay.
the transparency is important. And then on the full-time employees, I had I don't know which slide that was, but I had another question where it talks about the increase of new teachers versus how many teachers have left over this. I don't know if it was just the last couple of years. When was that? Was this done by year of 2020 or 21? so just for the year of 21. But it doesn't show the net increase or decrease of teachers. Is there a way to know, how many left and how many came, and the difference between, instead of just saying there was an increase and there was a decrease?
And Sarah, also on that, does that relate to the ESSER money, or does that relate overarching? Those are two different types of questions here.
So again, thank you for the question. So in terms of the reporting, you'll see on this slide that we're specifically reporting on the ESSER funds. I will say that the State Board of Education does collect information through our Cactus system related to the FTEs and the level of those FTEs across our different LEAs to be able to provide you kind of a historical report. And so we can certainly gather that information in terms of being able to share it. I think probably the clarification, and we can follow up with you, would be, are you looking for that for a specific time period? And then are we also looking for it specific to a funding stream, or in general and in aggregate?
Yeah, I think just in general, for each, maybe an annual report that shows any given, I would even like it at the district and the school level, so that there's somewhere to look to say, okay, how many teachers, do we have teachers fleeing this school or this district, or do we, and what does that look like? Because if they're hiring more and they're not accounting for all the losses, and we're not seeing both sides of the picture. I want to see both sides of what's going on.
Yeah, we do, as an agency, I will also say, in addition to the reporting on this specific area of funding related to the COVID-19 pandemic funds, we do put out an annual report that is specific to the retention and recruitment of educators. So I'm more than happy to share. The latest one was from 2020, 2021. And so we should have another one coming up shortly. We link to it in our annual report, but we do also have that state level reporting as well that may complement some of this information and give more context.
And does that report, just one last question, does that report show why they left, or what they left for? Like, are they leaving the profession, or are they just transferring to a different school within the state?
So that specific report generally hasn't. It has just reported on the employment trends. However, we have another tool in the Utah Teacher Engagement and Exit Survey that does collect the data related to the teachers who have exited employment, having the opportunity to be able to respond and provide context for why they made that decision. I will note that it is a survey that is required to be offered to teachers. It's not required that the teachers respond as part of their exit.
Okay, it would be good to know the reasons. Yeah.
Thank you. Superintendent?
Yeah, I think Sarah just addressed that. I would just also note that I hate to say there's research, because if I can't quote the research, I shouldn't say it. But it's when doing survey work, especially when it has involved employment, it's hard to get accurate data about why people leave as well. So as we've tried to collect some of that, as the LEAs try to collect it, we certainly don't for individual teachers, but they have noted that they're not always sure they're getting accurate information about, why leaving. We have qualitative data. We have the 2 reports. The University of Utah also did a big study. Malia or Sarah, you might remember how long ago, but they did a study on why teachers stay as well. That was really interesting 5 years ago. So we have a couple of reports within the last 5 years that have had some aggregate data that can be helpful, and we can certainly get that to you. But drilling down to the school level through Cactus, we can't really get that, but we can give you all that aggregate data that we have, as clear as it might be or not. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Deputy Jones?
Yes, Chair, your direction then, the final component of the overall monthly budget report is your discretionary funds report. Highlighted for your attention is that motion that was taken to set aside or to utilize $200,000, not to exceed $200,000 for those 2 research and development projects that was motioned by the board last month. So we've done that, and that's what we're providing you the status on, or the update to your discretionary funds report. I will, as I always do, call attention to the upper right-hand corner There's still funds available for projects or what you deem necessary as a board. We can utilize those discretionary funds in the manner that you so set. And as staff, we'll make sure that it's an allowable use of those funds. So I'll stop there on specific to the discretionary report and see if there's any questions or concerns through you, ma'am.
I don't see any. Thank you, Deputy.
That concludes my monthly budget report. More to follow with the Finance Committee next month. I will have solutions. We'll be able to work through that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your service as well.